My name is Brendan Toy, and I've travelled to San Francisco with famed gem hunter Steve Bennett and world-renowned gemstone carver Glenn Lehrer to find out how they find and source valuable gemstones. It's always difficult understanding where gemstones come from. We all know they come out of the ground, but what I found on this trip is a lot more than just that. The people attached to this profession are indeed in a league of their own, and on this adventure we discover the true meaning and spirit of gemstone mining, the difficulties and hardships faced, and in the process we unearth some of North America's greatest treasures. We begin our journey on Highway 5, the road that stretches all the way from Mexico and up through California. We're heading north into Oregon, but being such an incredible landscape with many things to see, we stop to admire Mount Shasta and its geological history.
So we've travelled up. What highway are we on, Glenn? What's the highway we're on?
We're on Highway 5, which is the main interstate highway that runs from the coast, the border of Mexico, all the way through California. We're going to be entering into Oregon not too long from now, and then it goes all the way up to Washington and goes all the way into British Columbia. So it's a main interstate highway that literally runs right up the west coast.
So what was this like when you were growing up? You say you used to come here a lot.
Oh my gosh, when I was a kid, this whole mountain, this volcano, Mount Shasta, was full of snow and a glacier around. So here you have evidence of global warming. I mean, you can really see it. It's kind of sad, but you can really see. That's all cinder dust up there and the multiple plumes, like the multiple ridges.
So it is a multiple plume, it's not erosion? It's
just multiple plumed. Of course you see a lot of erosion because basalt is very soft. But in fact, over the years with the glaciers and the snow melt every year, you got a lot of erosion because basalt's it's not a very durable rock. It's a soft rock and it comes from deep under the earth, much different than granite, which is much higher up in the strata of the earth. But yeah, it's very sad to see Mount Shasta, our beloved, and I think it's the tallest volcano elevation here in the state of California.
Yeah, I think so too. And then we have a cinder over here, which it looks beautifully preserved, this one. I mean, it's one of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's an amazing cinder cone. And a cinder cone is like when you have a volcano, you'll have major magma pushing out through the cracks, and every so often these eruptions, like almost, I hate to use the word, but pimple, like on you know, will pop up elsewhere, and that's what you have. So we really don't know how much higher up this cinder cone was because, of course, we have millenniums of earth erosion, but still, if we're standing here at 3,000 feet, we've got to be at least another 1,000, 1,500 feet up from here, don't you think?
I would have thought
from what I see.
Well, it's time to hit the road and let's carry on to Oregon.
We're on the edge of the Ring of Fire, baby.
Getting back on the highway, we continued on to Oregon. We're heading to Juniper Ridge, to a small opal mine not known to many people. On the way, we stopped to pick up Glenn Lehrer's friend and fellow gem enthusiast Derek Lusk, who was only too happy to show us his own collection of fine gemstones. Derek is a professional forager who makes his living off the land. For us on our trip, Derek would be our guide. And after a brief but needed pit stop, it was back on the road to Juniper Ridge. It was a long but beautiful journey through Oregon, with its vast winding roads cutting through forests and rolling hills. And by the end of the first day, we were all tired, but ready to set up camp in preparation for mining the next morning. Tired?
Yeah. Quite a drive that. 7 o'clock, not quite there yet. We set off at, what, 7:30 this morning?
Yeah.
11.5 hours drive.
12 hours on the road to get to a place that was only loosely identified on a map. We'd set up camp and Derek made sure we all knew the dangers about the wildlife. After a talk on cougars, I didn't feel too good about my flimsy tent.
So Glenn's putting up the tents in the dark. Very clever man, eh, Glenn? Not only can he cut stones, he can see in the dark.
That's because you took all the light.
We're all excited, apart from my cameraman Brendan and I, who have got the frighteners put up us because they've told us about the cougars. Now the cougars are cats. Cats like tigers, like panthers, that jump on people and eat you. and there's been lots of sightings of them in the area. And the worst thing of all, in fact Derek was chased by one and just got away recently. The worst thing of all, the only way to survive when they get close to you is to turn around, look them in the eye, and just as they jump with their jaws open, to punch them in the mouth. Their big teeth apparently go over side, and you suffocate them. If you miss though, you're dead.
You're not filling me with confidence, Steve.
Here we are. We're just set up camp. We just got here. We drove since 8 in the morning from San Francisco. Took us a solid, oh, I'd say a solid 12 hours to get up here. Of course, we stopped along the way a little bit to see some of the geological sites, like you saw Mount Shasta and all. But we're sitting at the base of Juniper Ridge, and on the other side, it's nighttime, but otherwise we're going to drive in. It's about another mile into the actual mine site, and we're going to climb real steep at the very end to get up actually on a ridge that has a plateau view all around the valley.
After a proper miner's campfire dinner, we settled in our new home, ready for the day ahead.
I'm a little bit excited this morning. We arrived late last night. It had already gone dark. We put up the tents, had a little bite to eat, and we got to have a little look of the actual mine itself. It's an open pit mine. Here in Oregon, what happens is the guys claim a stake of 20 acres off the government, and they're allowed to mine that stake. What we were seeing yesterday, even in the dark, we could see little flecks of beautiful fire opal and orange opals actually in the mine, and there was quite a few of them, which is unusual. You can go around the world, you can spend weeks and weeks in Zambia and not see a single emerald. You can be in other areas of the world and not see a tan. In fact, when I was in Tanzania for 2 weeks, I never actually saw a tanzanite in the mine itself. And so to actually be in an area where you are finding quite a lot of the gemstone in one area is quite exciting. And this is all because when opal forms, it forms into a seam. And in that seam, as long as you follow that seam, you've got every chance of finding it. But in such a vast state, such as Oregon, it only appears in 1 or 2 places. And that's where we are right now. I'm with a great team of guys today. Of course, we've got Glenn, and you'll know Glenn very, very well from our various channels. Glenn's very, very good friend Derek is a forager, and you're going to meet Derek a lot throughout the documentary. And we're going to spend the morning today with Chuck, who actually owns the claim where we're actually going to find the opal. So it's time for me to get dressed, get out and get mining.
We all got up after a nerve-wracking sleep of hearing coyotes and other strange wildlife noises filling the forest. I never thought I'd be that happy to see the sunrise. After some well-needed breakfast, we were almost ready to head up to the mine when we had a visit from Chuck, the mine owner, who brought some worrying news.
Big rainstorm.
Oh no.
So you don't think we'll be able to dig all day today, huh?
I don't care how wet you get.
He's gonna be in the tent.
Let's go then, man. It's starting to rain though.
You want to drive?
No? Oh, wrong side.
Despite the weather warning, we set off up the trail to the top of the ridge. Greeted with a large campfire, we parked up and began setting up the mining equipment.
Chuck, thanks for inviting us up, my man.
No problem.
This is one hell of a place.
You're welcome, anytime.
And you've been mining this for how long?
Solid 10 years, solid 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how long do you have the permit for, or is it ongoing?
It's yearly. I do
Right.
it every year here. I just did it, so we're all good for another year.
Excellent, excellent. And you've hit this seam that's just fantastic. People underestimate how much work goes into finding gemstones. You know, you look at this pit here, and this is 10 years worth of digging and digging. And that's the difference between different countries as well, isn't it? So, you know, we're in Madagascar in the sandstone, easy to go down.
Right.
We're in the alluvial deposits in countries where we get the sapphires out, like Sri Lanka, not too difficult. But going for this basalt, even with all the equipment, is quite difficult.
Yes, yes. Some of this basalt is super hard. It's super hard. There's some that just crumbles apart. That's why the big hammers makes a difference.
Yeah.
Especially on some of this material. The bigger the hammer, basically, the better the material is going to get out and the bigger pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're really excited to see the Juniper Ridge opals when they get cut by Glenn, and it's going to be fantastic.
I can't wait till I see it. Yeah, I can't wait.
So now we're dropping down into the level where the opal seam is.
Yeah.
It's probably only about, the opal seam starts about 5 feet below the surface here. You can start to see just below this topsoil, you'll start to hit the hard rhyolite.
Yeah, and
see
you
the
get the
rhyolite right here, and it's descending down in this way, and as we go another 10 feet,
Yeah.
you're going to start to pick up the opal seam.
With Glenn's knowledge, he had an educated idea of where the fire opal would most likely be. But even then, with that knowledge, it's still an uncertainty. We began digging in a spot deemed suitable by Derek and Glenn.
So basically we have a seam running at about 25-30 degrees running this way, and you're trying to follow the seam. You have to remember opal, it crystallizes. Well, it doesn't actually really crystallize, it doesn't have doesn't have a crystal structure, it's amorphous, so, but it sort of gathers in seams underground. And it's different to Australia. Australia is more where you've got an old water bed, either an old seabed or an old riverbed, and it comes down the chemicals.
It percolates down through the rock, picking up the silica.
Yeah, but this is kind of going the opposite way, isn't it?
This is opposite, because this is where an aquifer, an underground water chamber of aquifer, hit up against a magma chamber, and the combustion of it with this hot water steam, and the steam picks up the silica from the magma chamber and then is thrusted away from the magma chamber and pushed into these seams that we're seeing here, which are cracks and nodules within the porous rhyolite.
What Chuck's asked us to do, because it's such a small space, is that as we're mining, he wants us to take all the scree out so that we're not just filling it up level by level. So let the boys do all the hard work. They know what they're doing a lot more than I do. I'll do the donkey work.
After a few more hours of mining, and based on their combined knowledge, we hit the big time.
This certainly is some of the finest fire opal I've ever seen. They've been working this pit for 10 years, and literally they've only found a certain amount of carats, not many at all. And that tends to get sold at the Tucson Gem Fair every January to the collectors. But I think that's all going to change now. Chuck and I have forged a great relationship, and I'm really hoping that over the next couple of years, as he uncovers a few more seams, we may be seeing a few bits on the television.
Not long after discovering the nice pocket of opal, the wind started to pick up, and the storm Chuck warned us about was quickly heading across the valley, right at us. As you can see behind me, we're contending with a large storm that's coming in. We've done a lot of mining, a lot more, and they've just uncovered a new vein, but we're worried that this storm is a doozy. The wind's blowing it right over our camp, which is just over there, and it might be quite wet. Forced to finish digging and down tools, we headed back to camp to look over what treasures we had managed to retrieve from the ridge.
Got to thank you and Derek today for your hard work, and you know, even the art of using the big drill and the kangaroo hammer is beyond me.
How was it for you?
Yeah, but I was not as good as you guys. I mean, you two straight. You could see like a cleavage in the rock face. You knew exactly where to go, and every time I did it, I smashed the opal. And it was just a nightmare.
Right.
But you guys
learn somehow.
You learn from the first time around. But yeah, if you come in it from both ends and then come from underneath it, you actually lift these big pieces.
Yeah.
Now here you're looking at a piece, to the eye it doesn't look like much, right?
like
because
toffee.
it's so thick.
Yeah.
And something that thick would be hard to find, but as soon as you get the light behind that, what do you see? It's completely transparent red.
Ruby red.
Really, really red. See?
Yeah, yeah.
It's super red.
Yeah.
And so when we get it down to gemstone size, right?
Yeah.
When we get it down to, like, if you're going to cut an 8mm round out of here, it'll be 6mm deep. You're going to see that red you see here.
After taking a look at the quality we had got in the opal, Derek began cooking the evening meal. Steve and Glenn decided to drive out so they could talk a bit more about Juniper Ridge and how it came to be.
So we left Derek cooking, and it's been a great day mining. We've just seen all the stones and gems that we got out of the ground. But I wanted to come back out for you to just tell me a bit more about the geography and the geology of this area.
Right. So we're really looking behind us here. You're actually looking at the ridge, the Juniper Ridge, where this opal comes from. And this ridge at one point was much farther down in the elevation, but it's risen up because of the subduction in energy and also the lateral movement.
Yep.
But what really happens out here and why the opal is formed is very different than the way normal opal forms, like we talked about in previous talks, where normally it's water that percolates through
downwards,
into zones and then settles out into crevices and bubbles.
Yeah.
And that's traditional opal, like you would think from Australia.
Yeah.
But here we are. This is a completely different opal formation, and the excitement here is that this opal mine has completely been unknown to the world outside of a few mineral collectors and hobbyists and things. So we really are on the verge of a new source in a way that has been unknown to the world.
Yeah, I said to Chuck earlier on, the great thing is once we start showing it on television, then I'm sure, you know, we're going to start selling a lot.
That's right.
Then we can put a bit more money in, then you can get bigger diggers, you can really, you know,
He can
turn
actually
it over
commercially
faster. But actually, like you say, it might not even be opal, it might be opal plus.
That's right. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
We're going to find that out. That's the mystery right now that we're going to discover.
Anyway, Derek's cooking dinner.
Yes.
I'm starving.
You are?
I'm starving and I'm cold.
I mean, after all that hard work you put
I'm
in?
starving and I'm cold.
Okay, great.
Let's
There
go.
we go. Let's go have dinner now, okay?
After our camp cookout, the sun began to set and show Juniper Ridge for what it really is. The scenery was stunning, and Steve was intrigued on how Chuck managed to find the site in the first place.
Chuck, tell me, well, before you tell me anything, thanks for a great day.
No problem. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I really do.
It's just been, yeah, beautiful.
Good
Beautiful.
experience, huh?
And your flag's flying, the
bet.
fire's roaring, the sun's going down, and the thing I've been wanting to ask you all day long is how did you find this place?
Me and my dad found it by pure accident, really did. He found an old Forest Service map at a yard sale, and it had places where you can go find your own rocks, and one of them were opal. So we spent basically almost 3 years off and on looking for it, and we finally found it. And then we did some homework on it and found out it was a previous claim. And then from then on, we just kept, you know, showing it off and found out it was worth some money. Then we decided to basically put a claim on it and been running it since.
So did those maps say it was actually here, or did you have...
No, actually it said it's south of us, 1.5 miles.
Oh, really?
1.5 miles. That's why it took us so long.
You know,
to
that's
find it.
exactly the same story as the Tanzanite story. Mendoza, he was dropped, his but his driver, he said, I think there's a new stone over there, there's a new discovery to be found over there. And his driver said, I'm not going there, the weather's not good enough. So he dropped him off about 1 mile short of where he wanted to be, and that's when he found Tanzanite. Exactly the same story.
Same thing, yeah. Yeah. So
Wow.
I've enjoyed this thing up here. You know, I've had a lot of good people up here and enjoyed this hobby. And it's a hobby, but keeping it open to the public is half of it.
Yeah.
The experience, like you today.
Yeah.
You know, you said you went and dig this place and you got 1 stone out of 3 days.
Yeah.
How many stones did you find today?
Quite a lot.
Quite a lot, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was worth your time coming.
Oh, sure, but you've had to go through a lot of pain to get to that vein.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
In fact, there's a rhyme there: pain to get to the vein. That's, you know, you know, it's true.
Yeah.
But we hit pay dirt today,
Yeah,
for sure.
you hit
Yeah.
good today. You
Yeah.
did good today. It's
Yeah.
not a normal day, but
Yeah.
you had good help.
Yeah.
So
It's excellent.
yeah, you had good help.
As the sun set on a perfect day of mining, all that was left to do was relax, drink and tell stories around the fire, ready to move on for the next part of our adventure.
Where are we going? Out to the Sunstone mine from here.
Yeah.
We're in the town of Lakeview now. This is the last town in eastern Oregon, and it's wild wilderness everywhere.
How long is it going to take to get there?
It's 90 miles, and so it's usually about an hour and a half.
As we drove out of Lakeview, civilization quickly began to disappear. The roadsides once filled with barns and farming land were gone, replaced only with a dirt road and our trucks racing across the arid landscape. After what seemed like hours of long straight road, you really get a sense of how big this place really is. We reached the outer area of the Sunstone region, and Derek filled us in on a little history about the area itself and John C. Fremont.
Well, Steve, this is the beginning of the Sunstone area. It starts at this sign, It's a 7 square mile area from this sign, and this is the only deposit. This is it.
Wow. So it's actually smaller than the Tanzanian deposit for Tanzanite.
It's a very small deposit.
And it's taken us so long to get here, we've not seen even a house, a telegraph pole, nothing. How did they find it in the first place?
Well, back in the 1800s, John C. Fremont was coming out here. He was looking for the new Oregon Trail, easier to get out here. He camped on this ridge out to my east here called Poker Jim Ridge, and they camped the night. In the morning when the sun rose up, they went out to the ridge and was surveying the land, and they noticed this patch out there that was all bright. I was like, what could that be? What is that? So he took 2 of his guys with pack saddles and horses and sent them down there to go see what it was. Well, they got down here and realized it's these shiny sunstones, as we know them now. They're sunstones, rocks. And so they filled their pack saddles full, ran them back up to John Fremont, and he looked at them and was like, wow, what is this?
Probably thought they were diamonds.
Yeah, I had no idea what they were. So they packed them, they finished their surveying out here, went all the way back to New York, took the product to Tiffany's, and had them analyzed. It's like, what is this? And Tiffany's analyzed them as immature diamonds.
No way.
At the time.
Immature diamonds.
Immature diamonds.
Wow.
And they actually faceted them and sold them as immature diamonds.
Wow, that's a great story. But they got that sparkle, haven't they? They got that magic. Is that the copper that gives it that extra brilliance?
That's the copper that gives the extra brilliance, absolutely.
Look, I don't want to stay here anymore. Let's go.
Let's get some sunstones.
Our first stop in the sunstone mining area was at Derek's very own claim. He comes out here and stays to mine sunstone for a few months every year. If it wasn't for Derek's trailer parked at the site, we would have easily missed it.
Main pit.
This is our main pit. And how this formation was formed, do you see in the distance there on the hills?
Yeah.
You see that line about 1/3 up on the hills there? That's the line of the ancient lake that was here. See that? You can see that distinct line. It goes all the way around this place.
Yeah, I noticed it as we drove in as well.
Yeah, that was an ancient lake. So right here was probably 500 feet of water over our heads in this spot.
So this is a basalt lava flow, and you can see lots of different lines across this. What we call igneous rock. It's from the cooling down of the lava. Of course, it's magma before it breaks the surface. It's lava after it breaks the surface, and you're just seeing 1 or 2 little bits of sunstone. Yeah,
right in there where the light is.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it?
Right here.
But very difficult to get at.
Right there they are.
And very small sizes too, Glenn.
Yeah.
I had a go at trying to find some sunstone. I didn't find any, but I did find this little guy.
There he is. You guys find anything over there?
A few whites, no reds.
Good handful of whites. One little tiny pale with a little schiller in it.
Yeah.
Pale peach.
Well, you just got to be patient out here. The sunstones are very hard to find. You can easily find the clears, but the colored stones are extremely hard to find. Sometimes it takes years and years for people to come out here and actually find their first red sunstone. It takes time for your eyes to tune in to the color of the sunstone because they blend into all the colors in the gravel, so it's very hard to find.
Yeah. Even the little lizard over there blended in because even he was camouflaged.
Yeah, everything's camouflaged in the desert.
We stayed for a while longer, and I must admit I was desperate to show off to the guys and find my very own red sunstone, but Derek had beaten us all to it.
It took a while, but I see it.
Yeah, it takes a while.
Yeah.
Come on over.
You're there, Brendan can't see it.
I can't
Nope.
see it.
And how far away is it?
It's 2 feet
About
from
2
me.
feet from here.
Yeah, it's 2 feet, and it's the size of a dime.
Good sized nugget.
It is.
And it's white or got some red in it?
No, it's red.
Yeah, it's red.
I can't
Red.
see it. It's right in front of my face, isn't it?
It's close.
It is. Your
Wait.
face is pretty close.
Oh!
Try 2 foot. Yeah, you got it?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Have you got it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Just
Go on
move
then.
your head a little bit like that.
Oh yes.
There it is.
Look at the size of that.
That is a chunk.
Stunning.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, you can really see the color in that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It just snuck up. We all look at the tracks.
Yeah.
Somebody's already been through here, and
Because somebody
There it
walked right there
was.
and shoved the dirt aside. It
could
probably
have,
rolled it
yeah,
over.
yeah. But it's
That
there. They are.
is fabulous.
It was time to move on from Derek's claim to the claim of Chris Rose. He owned the Spectrum mine a short drive away. It was a bigger operation, but still a humble collection of RVs and digging equipment. In this vast wide open desert, there were only a handful of people. The place was littered with comedic signs and the famed Spectrum Mine treasure box that featured samples of all types of different gemstones and mineral specimens. We headed down to one of the main pits, where Steve has had a bit of luck and finds a small piece of sunstone.
So I've just found a little bit here. Nope, I thought I had. Let's try again. Yeah, so there is a little bit here. So that tells me there's every chance there's more in here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the shovel and put this onto the sieve, and we'll see what we can find. So we found that one little piece. What we're hoping now, here's my able assistant, Mr. Glenn Lehrer. Not just a brilliant carver, not just a pretty face, but damn hand with the sieve. Dab hand, I should have said, sorry Glenn. Yeah. So you try and pull the crystals out, let the rock face if you can, but then if not, this is sort of a secondary chance.
This is these are like 1/4 inch screen, so
yeah.
All the sand's falling through, and anything over 1/4 inch is going to stay above here. And we kind of ran our hand over it to break the sand down, and now you're sifting, like you see Steve doing.
Let's have a look then, Glenn. I don't think this is a good one.
No, I don't think so.
I
think you got that pocket right out, but you got to look close, because if you don't, you can miss it right there. You see how small it was in the sand?
Yeah.
You can't really see it.
Tell you what, Glenn, I'm going to get another shovel. I'm going to get another shovel. I'm going to go for a double loader this time, Glenn.
Okay, I think we can handle that. I'm going to break some of the bigger rocks out. Oh, this looks like something right here, maybe? Nope. Oh, here we go. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
The reason why they look like shards, Chris was telling us that they actually are solid labradorite feldspar crystals that have come up in the magma through the flow of the volcano. But as soon as it hit this riverbed, just the sudden shock, the temperature change between a full... What?
Quenched it.
It quenched it. Yeah. Like if you were to throw an ice cube into a hot cup of tea or something like that, you hear that crack crunchle?
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening here. So he did mention that he has found single uniform crystals out of the labradorite, but most of the times they end up being these like shard shapes that have cracked apart.
Yeah, so not only do you need the right chemical composition, not only do you need the right pressure, the right temperature, you also need the right cooling process, because if it just cools too quick, it's history.
We went to look at another dig site that Chris had discovered by accident. Whilst digging a hole for an outhouse, he'd hit a pocket of sunstone. This had then become one of his biggest pits at the Spectrum Mine.
It's quite interesting that they say that Cleopatra, when she had her peridot mines, used to stop the miners from mining in the daytime, saying that when the light hit the peridot, it just flashed and they couldn't actually find where the gemstones were. And this is completely the opposite. Now we've got the sun really high shining down, and we're finding it far easier to find little crystals than we were some 4 or 5 hours ago when there was no sunlight. So this is number 17. Nothing as of yet, but you never know. We may just find something this time. Oh, we may be in luck. We may be in luck. This is my 17th one, Glenn tells me. I lost count, but Glenn's better on maths than I am. And he said number 17, and we have certainly got one piece. Yeah, that's a beauty.
The first stuff that erupts out is the good stuff, and then all the stuff that erupts out after that gets worse and worse, and you get just more clears.
Interesting. So then when you find multiple layers, you're saying it's usually the best is always at the top layer?
No, I'm saying it's usually at the bottom.
Because it came out
That's the
first,
to
back
flow
to
out,
front.
and everything else stacks on top of it. Of course, I got it.
Yeah.
It's just the opposite. Once it hits the earth, it's the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now I understand.
And that's why there's so many deposits out here hidden in that way, because you know these last flows that had clears came from the bottom chamber, just covered everything.
It was time to stop using the sieves and go and have a look at some bigger machines to help us mine.
Now what we're going to do is we're going to head over to the conveyor belt, just over here, and we're going to sift through and try a different method of finding sunstone.
The machine was a large setup, but relatively simple in its operation. You could really see how much faster it was, searching tons of piles of dirt and rock to get to the sunstone. But even with this equipment, finding a lot of sunstone or even big size stones was a rare occurrence.
So you saw us in the pit digging, and we found a few bits with some manual sortation. After we finished doing the manual sortation, we then want to have one more second chance to make sure we didn't miss anything. So we take the digger comes into the hopper. It's what we call a three-way hopper. So the very fine grains go off that end because there's nothing in the fine grains that we could facet. The big rocks come over here. Again, we can't go through all the big rocks, we haven't got the explosives. And then the medium size come on the conveyor belt. And then we have water on it, which gives it nice and wet, gives it more of a shine. And then we sit here manually going through, seeing if we can find anything.
The end of the day was drawing near. Our time at the Spectrum Sunstone mine was at an end. We'd found time to pack down the gear and chat about the sunstone and future mining opportunities.
I'm jealous that guys like Derek, they get to do this all the time and be out here living off the land and doing what they love. It's been a real adventure, and I'll be sad to see the back of it.
We've come to the end of our journey, and we've discovered and learned some important information on these great North American gemstones. But more importantly, the people behind getting them, the hardships and challenges they face each year, and the small scale they work at is truly inspiring. As someone who is inexperienced in how these gems are formed, I have learned that the story behind the journey of that gemstone, from the ground to where we see it finally set into jewellery, is the most exciting part. We need people like Derek, Chuck and Chris who go and do this for months on end, year after year, just to get these earthly treasures for us all to enjoy and appreciate. And that to me really is the most precious part of owning a gemstone. And best of all, the story doesn't end when you buy it. You start the next story, and at the end, you pass it on, so the next journey can begin. We've shown you the beginning, the rest is up to you.